Before we dive into this incredible story of lost love and second chances, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on more videos like this. A billionaire widower stepped into a sterile clinic waiting room, his hand gripping his sick daughter's smaller one. He froze. Across the hall, a familiar face emerged from an office. A face he hadn't seen in 20 agonizing years. It was his childhood sweetheart, the woman who had vanished without a trace. "Dr. Carter will see you now," the nurse announced, and David Hartfield's heart slammed against his ribs. Not her. Not Emily. Not after 2 decades of silence. The door swung open, and there she was. Older, yes, perhaps a little weary around the eyes, but unmistakably Emily Carter. Her white coat bore the title, Chief of Pediatric Medicine, embroidered in neat blue script. Her dark hair was pulled back in the same practical ponytail she'd worn during their grueling final exams back at Berkeley. "Good evening. I'm Dr. Carter. What brings you?" Emily's voice hitched, her professional demeanor cracking the moment their eyes met. The clipboard in her hand tilted precariously. "Daddy!" A small, feverish voice broke the spell. 8-year-old Sophia looked up at David, her blonde curls damp with sweat. "I don't feel good." Emily's doctor's mask snapped back into place with astonishing speed. "Of course, sweetheart. Let's take a look at you." She moved to the examination table where Sophia sat huddled. David found his voice, though it was rough with emotion. "She's had a fever for 5 days. It won't break. And this rash, it started yesterday." He gently pushed up Sophia's sleeve, revealing an angry red mark spreading up her arm. "Any joint pain?" Emily asked, her fingers gentle and professional as she examined the rash, carefully avoiding David's gaze. "Everything hurts," Sophia whimpered, tears welling in her blue eyes, so like her mother's. "My knees, my elbows." Emily nodded, making notes on her clipboard. "How about your appetite?" "She hasn't eaten properly in days," David answered, his voice softer now, a hint of the old intimacy creeping back despite the years and the tension. "Emily, Dr. Carter," she corrected sharply, her eyes still fixed on the chart. "Have you seen her regular pediatrician?" "Dr. Evans couldn't figure out what's wrong. He sent us here." Emily continued her examination, listening to Sophia's heart, feeling the lymph nodes in her neck. The familiar crease appeared between her eyebrows, the one that always showed when she was concentrating on a difficult problem, lost in thought, just as she used to get lost in study late at night in the campus library. "We'll need to run some tests," she said finally, her voice calm and measured. "Blood work. Possibly a spinal tap, if—" "A spinal tap?" David stepped forward, alarm spiking. "Is it that serious?" Emily finally met his eyes, her expression guarded. "I need to rule out several possibilities, David. Some of them are quite serious, yes." Just then, Sophia reached out a small hand, her fingers closing around Emily's wrist. "You have a moon." Emily looked down, confused. "What?" Sophia pointed to the small crescent-shaped birthmark on Emily's inner wrist, then to the matching mark just visible above David's collar. "A moon birthmark, just like Daddy has on his neck. See?" Emily yanked her hand back as if burned, her face paling dramatically. "I need to. I'll have the nurse come in to draw blood." She practically fled the room before David could utter a single word. "Is the doctor okay?" Sophia asked, her fevered eyes wide with concern. "She's fine, baby, just very busy," David said, sitting beside his daughter. His mind was reeling. Emily was here. Emily was Sophia's doctor. And somehow, in 5 minutes, his 8-year-old daughter had noticed something that had taken him and Emily 3 months to discover back in college: their matching birthmarks. A strange coincidence? Or something more? The nurse entered with a blood draw kit. "Dr. Carter wants a full panel. She's admitting Sophia for observation." "Admitting her?" David's stomach clenched with fear. "The symptoms are concerning," the nurse explained gently. "We need to monitor her overnight at minimum." The nurse prepared Sophia's arm. "Small pinch, sweetie." Sophia barely flinched. At 8 years old, She'd been through enough medical procedures since Clara's death 3 years ago to handle needles better than most adults. "Will Dr. Carter come back?" Sophia asked as the nurse filled vial after vial. "She'll check on you later," the nurse assured her. "She's the best pediatrician we have." After the nurse left, David helped Sophia change into a hospital gown. His hands shook as he folded her clothes. Emily was here. The woman who'd vanished from his life without a single explanation was now responsible for diagnosing his daughter's mysterious illness. "Daddy." Sophia's voice was small, hesitant. "Am I really sick?" David smoothed her hair back, his throat tight. "The doctors will figure it out. That's why we're here." "Dr. Sarah seems nice, but sad," Sophia mused, her brow furrowed. "What makes you say that?" David asked, startled by her perception. "Her eyes. They look like yours. When you look at Mommy's picture." David's breath hitched. Sometimes, his daughter's innocent observations cut straight to the bone. "Let's get you settled in your room, okay?" An orderly arrived with a wheelchair. As they moved through the pediatric ward, David spotted Emily at the nurse's station, hunched over a computer, the glow illuminating her tense face. She glanced up, and their eyes met for a fleeting fraction of a second before she quickly looked away. The private room was decorated with cheerful murals of jungle animals. Sophia was transferred to the bed. And 4-line was started for fluids, and monitors attached to track her vital signs. "The doctor will be in shortly," the nurse said before leaving them alone. David pulled a chair close to Sophia's bed. His daughter's eyes were already growing heavy from exhaustion. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby? I hope Dr. Carter can make me better." "Me too," he whispered, his gaze fixed on the door. As Sophia drifted off into a restless sleep, David stared at the closed door, wondering when Emily would return. Wondering what he would say when she did. Wondering how the woman who'd shattered his heart 20 years ago had become the only person who might be able to save his daughter's life. How had destiny brought them back together under such heartbreaking circumstances? David watched the sunrise paint the hospital room in shades of orange and pink, his neck stiff from sleeping upright in the chair beside Sophia's bed. She'd been restless all night, her fever spiking twice despite the medications. Each time, a different doctor, a resident perhaps, had come to check on her. Never Emily. "Mr. Hartfield?" A young resident, Dr. Mendez, appeared in the doorway. "Doctor." David stood, his muscles aching. "Dr. Carter wants to discuss Sophia's test results." "She's in her office." David glanced at Sophia, still sleeping fitfully, a pale, fragile form beneath the blankets. "Can someone stay with her?" "I'll watch her," offered Brenda, the morning nurse, smiling kindly. "Go on. 3rd floor, end of the hall. Don't worry, she's in good hands." The walk to Emily's office felt endless. 20 years ago, he'd known every flicker of expression that crossed her face, every nervous habit, every tell when she was worried. Now she was Dr. Carter, chief of pediatrics, and he was just another anxious parent in the hallway, a ghost from a past she clearly wanted to forget. He knocked tentatively on her door. "Come in." Emily sat behind her large wooden desk, surrounded by towering stacks of medical journals and the glow of multiple computer monitors. She changed out of yesterday's scrubs into a fresh white coat over smart navy dress pants. Her hair was down now, cascading around her shoulders, longer than he remembered, softening the sharp lines of fatigue on her face. "Sit down, David." She gestured to a chair opposite her desk, her eyes fixed on the file in front of her, avoiding his gaze. He sat, the silence stretching between them thick with unspoken history. "How bad is it?" Sophia's white blood cell count is elevated, but not dangerously so. The pattern doesn't match typical infections. She pulled up images on her computer screen, microscopic views, charts, graphs. These rashes, combined with the joint pain and the persistent fever, I suspect juvenile idiopathic arthritis. But we need more tests to confirm. "Arthritis?" David's voice was incredulous. "She's 8 years old. It's an autoimmune condition," Emily explained calmly, her professional mask firmly in place. If that's what this is, it's treatable. The prognosis can be very good with the right course of therapy. She finally looked at him, her dark eyes serious. But I want to run a few more specific panels, blood tests, just to be absolutely sure. David nodded, processing the information. Treatable. The word was a lifeline in the storm of his fear. Silence descended again, heavy and awkward. I heard you became chief of pediatrics, he said finally, breaking the tension. Congratulations, Emily. That's incredible. Thank you. Her response was clipped, cool. I heard you sold your tech startup for quite a lot. Congratulations to you too. More silence. The hum of the computers, the distant sounds of the hospital were the only noise. Emily, I can transfer Sophia's case to Dr. Rodriguez if you'd prefer, she interrupted, not looking up from the file. He's excellent with autoimmune disorders. No. The word came out sharper than he intended, carrying the weight of 20 years of unanswered questions. No. Sophia trusts you already. That's rare for her, especially since her mother. Emily's expression softened slightly at the mention of Sophia's trust. She's a sweet kid, David. Very bright, like her mother was. David watched her face carefully, searching for any hint of recognition, any sign that she remembered Clara. Clara died 3 years ago. Car accident. Emily finally looked up, her professional facade faltering. A flicker of genuine pain crossed her features. I'm so sorry, David. I didn't know. How could you? The words were out before he could stop them, laced with bitterness and a raw, aching hurt that had never truly healed. You disappeared. Just gone. The unspoken question hung heavy in the air. Why? Emily stood abruptly, walking towards the window, her back to him. I should check on Sophia. 20 years, Emily. David's voice was low, filled with all the pain of their separation. Not a word, not a letter, nothing. You just vanished from my life. This isn't the time, David. Her voice was tight, strained. When is? He stood too, moving towards her. When is the time to talk about everything? A gentle knock interrupted them. Nurse Brenda poked her head in. Dr. Carter? Sophia's asking for you. And her dad. They walked back to Sophia's room in tense, uncomfortable silence. Inside, Sophia was sitting up in bed, looking marginally better, a puzzle spread out on her tray table. Dr. Emily. Sophia's face lit up, a genuine smile finally breaking through the fatigue. Nurse Brenda said you might know what's wrong with me. We're getting closer, sweetheart, Emily said gently, moving to check Sophia's vital signs on the monitor, her hands moving with practiced ease. How's the pain today? Better, but still a little ouchy. Sophia studied Emily's face with the unnerving directness of a child. Were you and Daddy friends? You look at each other funny. David saw Emily's hands pause for a fraction of a second on the monitor. We went to college together, Emily said carefully, her voice neutral. A long time ago. Is that where you got your matching moons? Sophia asked, pointing to their birthmarks again. Sophia? David started, feeling a flush creep up his neck. It's okay, David, Emily interjected, offering a small, strained smile to Sophia. Yes, we noticed them in college. It was a funny coincidence. Mommy said there's no such thing as coincidences, Sophia said solemnly, looking wise beyond her years. Only God's plan. Emily's smile faltered, a shadow crossing her face. Your mommy sounds very wise, sweetheart. She's in heaven now, Sophia said simply. But Daddy says she watches over us. She yawned, clearly tired despite her brief burst of energy. Are you married, Dr. Emily? No, I'm not. Do you have kids? No. Emily's voice was barely a whisper now. Maybe you could practice being a mom with me? Sophia said drowsily, her eyes fluttering closed. While I'm here. Since I don't have a mom anymore and you don't have a kid. Emily's breath hitched audibly. She turned quickly, busying herself adjusting Sophia's foredrip, her back to David. Get some rest, sweetheart. I'll be back this afternoon. She practically fled the room again. David followed her into the hallway. Emily, wait. I have rounds, David. She didn't turn around, her voice distant and flat. We need to talk. About us. She finally faced him, her eyes cold and distant, a wall firmly erected between them. About Sophia's treatment, yes. Anything else? David, that was another lifetime. 20 years is a very long time. Let's just focus on getting your daughter well. She walked away before he could respond, disappearing around the corner. David watched her go, the familiar ache in his chest intensifying. He remembered another time she'd walked away. In their senior year, they'd been planning their future grad school, maybe even marriage, kids. They joked about their matching birthmarks being destiny's way of marking them for each other. Then, a week before graduation, he'd returned to their small apartment to find half her things gone and a single, crumpled note on the table. I have to go. Please don't look for me. I'm sorry. He'd searched anyway, hired investigators, called everyone they knew. Her parents claimed they had no idea where she was. Her friends were as bewildered as he was. Eventually, heartbreakingly, he'd had to accept she was gone. Now she was back, and his daughter's life might depend on her. Felt like the cruelest twist of fate. David returned to Sophia's room. She was dozing again, her small hand clutching her stuffed rabbit. He settled back into his chair, pulling out his laptop to check work emails, but his mind kept drifting back to Emily's face, to the pain he'd seen there when Sophia mentioned kids. What had happened to her during those missing years? What secret was she hiding behind that professional mask? And why did it feel like his innocent daughter, with her simple questions, was somehow unraveling mysteries Emily had buried deep within her soul long ago? Middle place second CTA here, e.g. What secret is Emily hiding? You won't believe the shocking truth. If you're finding this story gripping, make sure to smash that like button and share your theories in the comments below. Emily stood in the quiet supply closet, pressing her palms against her eyes, trying desperately to stop the surge of tears. Sophia's innocent question, "Do you have kids?" had cracked open a wound she thought had healed years ago. Emma. Our little Emma. The name echoed in the painful silence. Dr. Carter? A nurse called from the hallway. Your 2 o'clock consultation is here. Be right there, she managed, forcing her voice to sound steady. She splashed cold water on her face in the nearby staff bathroom, then checked her reflection. Professional. Controlled. A chief of pediatrics. Not the terrified 22-year-old girl who had run away from everything she loved. After her afternoon appointments, she found herself inexplicably drawn back to room 314. David was sitting beside Sophia's bed, reading to her from a worn copy of Charlotte's Web. He glanced up as she entered, and for a fleeting moment, she saw the boy she'd fallen in love with at Berkeley, the one who used to read her poetry on lazy Sunday mornings, his voice soft against her hair. How you feeling, Sophia? Emily checked the monitors, her hands steady despite the tremor in her heart. Better. Daddy's been reading to me. Sophia yawned, nestling deeper under the covers. Just like he said you used to read to him. Emily shot David a look. He shrugged apologetically, a familiar sheepish grin on his face. She asked how we met. I told her about the library study sessions. Your daddy always fell asleep during chemistry, Emily said, surprised the memory, and the words had escaped her. Did not. David protested, the old banter flowing between them effortlessly for a moment. Did too. I had to wake you up before the librarian kicked us out. Sophia giggled, then winced as the movement sent a jolt of pain through her joints. Easy there, sweetheart. Emily moved quickly to adjust her foredrip. The new medication should start to help soon. After Sophia dozed off, David followed Emily into the hallway. Can we talk now, please? About everything. Emily glanced at her watch, her expression unreadable. I have 15 minutes before my next rounds. He led her to a quiet, deserted corner of the family waiting area on the floor. Why, Emily? Why did you leave? The question he'd carried for 20 years finally hung in the air between them. She sank into a plastic chair, suddenly looking incredibly weary, the weight of her secret crushing her. I was pregnant, David. The words landed like a physical blow. David stared at her, stunned. What? I found out the week before graduation. I was terrified. We were so young, had all these plans. Your father was starting his political campaign. My parents, they said I would ruin your life, that your family would never accept a mixed-race grandchild, especially one born out of wedlock. Her voice was thick with unshed tears, her gaze distant, lost in the painful past. I loved you, Emily. I would have married you in a heartbeat. I know. Tears slipped down her cheeks now, carving paths through the exhaustion. That's why I couldn't tell you. You would have thrown away everything for me, David. Your future, your family's expectations. And I couldn't let you do that. Where did you go? I searched for you. Seattle. My aunt took me in. I planned to have the baby, then figure things out. Her voice cracked completely now, the dam breaking. But at 7 months, something went wrong. The doctors, they couldn't save her. Her? David whispered, his own throat closing up. Emma. I named her Emma Grace. She covered her face with her hands, her body shaking with silent sobs. She was so tiny, so perfect. She had your eyes, David. He reached for her hand instinctively, then stopped himself, his own grief for the child he never knew overwhelming him. Why didn't you come back, Emily? After you lost her. How could I? Her voice was raw with pain. I'd lost our baby. I'd made this huge decision to leave without you. I was drowning in grief and guilt. David. Drowning. She wiped her eyes with trembling hands. So I buried myself in med school, specialized in pediatrics because I thought if I could save other people's children, maybe it could make up for not saving ours. David nodded, unable to speak, his own pain a mirror of hers. I looked for you, Emily, he said quietly, his voice raspy. For years. Hired investigators. Everything. Your parents. They wouldn't tell me anything. They thought they were protecting me. Protecting both of us. From what? Emily looked at him, her eyes filled with a lingering sadness. From loving each other? From making what they saw as a mistake. She stood abruptly, pulling herself together, rebuilding her walls. I need to check on my other patients. Emily. I can't do this right now, David. Her voice was desperate. Your daughter needs me to be her doctor. Not this mess of emotions between us. She gestured helplessly. She asked why you looked sad, Emily? David said, his voice soft but firm. Sophia. She notices everything. She said you have the same look in your eyes that I get when I look at Clara's picture. Emily froze in the doorway, her back rigid. I loved my wife, Emily, David continued, his voice filled with respect and sorrow. Clara was kind and patient, and everything I needed after you broke me. But she knew. She always knew there was a part of me that belonged to someone else. Someone who vanished without explanation. I'm sorry, Emily whispered, her voice barely audible. I don't want apologies, Emily. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I don't know what I want. My daughter is sick, and her doctor is the woman who still owns half my heart after 20 years. I need to go. Emily fled, disappearing down the hallway before he could see the fresh wave of tears in her eyes. That evening, alone in her quiet office, Emily pulled out a small wooden box from her desk drawer. Inside lay a hospital bracelet, impossibly tiny, with Baby Chun printed on it. Next to it, a single, faded photograph, an ultrasound showing a perfect little profile. She traced the image with her finger, remembering the first time she'd felt Emma kick. She'd been alone in her aunt's guest room, missing David so much it had physically hurt. She'd almost called him that night. Almost. Her pager buzzed, jolting her back to the present. Sophia's lab results were in. Emily wiped her eyes, locked the box away, and took a deep, fortifying breath. Right now, she had a job to do. She had to save David's daughter, something she'd failed to do with their own child all those years ago. As she headed back to the pediatric ward, she wondered if fate was giving her a second chance at redemption, or if this was just another form of punishment for the choices she'd made. The mystery of their reunion, the pain of their past, and the uncertain future of Sophia's health intertwined into a knot in her stomach. Sophia was awake when she arrived, chattering happily to David about a new friend she'd made, a boy with leukemia in the next room. Dr. Emily. Sophia's face brightened instantly. Daddy was just telling me about the time you two got locked in the campus library overnight. Emily glanced at David, who had the grace to look sheepish, a faint blush on his cheeks. Your father always had a talent for getting us into trouble, Emily said, a small, genuine smile touching her lips as she checked Sophia's chart. But you always got us out of it, David replied softly, his eyes meeting hers over Sophia's bed. For a moment, the hospital room faded away, and they were back at Berkeley, young and in love, oblivious to the heartbreak the future held. In that shared look, Emily saw everything they'd lost, and a fragile hope for everything that might still be possible. But first, she had to make sure this precious little girl got well. Everything else could wait. For weeks into Sophia's treatment, Emily found herself spending more time in room 314 than strictly necessary. Sophia required daily specialized therapy, a combination of specific medications and physical exercises to manage her juvenile arthritis symptoms. Emily insisted on administering it personally, meticulously monitoring Sophia's progress. Higher, Dr. Emily. I can stretch higher. Sophia reached eagerly for the colorful therapy band, her face scrunched in determination. Easy there, superstar. Emily guided her movements gently. We don't want to overdo it. David watched from his usual chair, his laptop forgotten on the side table. Over the past weeks, he'd seen Emily transform from the distant professional into someone who made Sophia laugh even on her worst days. Her dedication was unwavering, her focus absolute. Daddy, show Dr. Emily your silly dance. Sophia giggled, full of newfound energy. Soph, I don't think. David protested, his cheeks flushing. Please, it always makes me feel better. David glanced at Emily, who was trying and failing to suppress a smile. Fine, he sighed dramatically, standing up, but only because you took all your medicine today. He then performed what could only be described as a cross between the Macarena and a chicken dance, a ridiculous spectacle that would have mortified his billionaire colleagues. Sophia shrieked with delight, and Emily's professional composure cracked completely. Her laugh, bright and unguarded, echoed in the room, sending David's heart soaring back 20 years to their carefree college days. Your father was always ridiculous, Emily said, still grinning, wiping a tear from her eye. Was? David challenged softly, his eyes meeting hers. The air shifted again, charged with unspoken history and burgeoning possibility. Okay, Sophia, therapy's done for today, Emily said quickly, regaining some control, though her cheeks were flushed. Rest before lunch, all right? Will you eat lunch with us? Sophia asked, her huge blue eyes pleading. Please? The cafeteria has pudding today. Emily hesitated. I have patience, sweetheart. Just this once. Sophia deployed her most effective weapon, an irresistible puppy dog look inherited from her mother. Emily sighed, a small, defeated smile playing on her lips. Maybe, just for a few minutes, that short cafeteria lunch became a pattern. Lunch together when their schedules aligned. Then coffee breaks while Sophia napped. Then dinners when Emily worked late, sitting by Sophia's bedside long after her shift ended. They talked about safe things at first, Sophia's progress, hospital gossip, new medical research. But gradually, inevitably, the walls between them began to crumble. The curiosity about the missing years, the pain of their shared past, the undeniable connection that still lingered, it all started to surface. She asks about Clara constantly, David said one evening, watching Sophia sleep peacefully. Wants to know everything. How we met. Our first date, her favorite color? Sometimes I don't know what to tell her. He paused, his gaze meeting Emily's across Sophia's bed. Clara was wonderful. She was kind and patient and everything I needed after you left. But, his voice lowered. We never had what you and I had. That lightning strike connection. That feeling. David. Emily's voice was sharp, a mixture of shock and denial. I'm not saying I didn't love her, Emily. I did. Deeply. But it was different. Calmer. Safer, maybe. Maybe that's what I needed then. Maybe that's what saved me from falling apart completely. Maybe, she whispered, looking away. He studied her face. The lines of fatigue and sadness still etched there despite her laughter with Sophia. What about you, Emily? 20 years is a long time to be alone. I dated, she admitted, twisting her coffee cup in her hands. Nothing serious. I threw myself into work. Into becoming the best pediatrician I could be. Her voice grew softer, laced with pain. Every sick child I helped felt like a tiny piece of redemption. For Emma, the name, whispered aloud in the quiet room, hung heavy in the air. She nodded, tears welling again. Stupid, right? As if saving other people's children could somehow make up for losing ours. It's not stupid, Emily. David reached out, covering her hand with his. It's human. It's grief. It's love. Just then, Sophia stirred in her sleep, whimpering softly. Both adults moved instantly, instinctively. David to hold her small hand, Emily to check her temperature. Just a dream, Emily murmured, her touch gentle on Sophia's forehead. She's fine. Their hands brushed, lingered. Neither pulled away. Emily? David's voice was low, raw with emotion. I never stopped loving you. Not for one day. Even when I hated you for leaving. Even when I married Clara. Part of me was always waiting for you to come back. I know, she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. Because part of me never left. Sophia's eyes fluttered open. She blinked at them sleepily. Then her gaze fell to where their hands were still touching over hers. Are you holding hands? They jumped apart like guilty teenagers caught doing something forbidden. Just checking your temperature. Sleepyhead. Emily recovered quickly, though her cheeks were bright red. With Daddy's hand too? Sophia's grin was far too knowing for an 8-year-old who had just woken up. Shouldn't you be sleeping? David deflected, trying to hide his own flush. I'm not tired, Sophia announced. She looked from David to Emily, her expression serious. Dr. Emily, do you have any kids? The question landed like a stone in still water, echoing the moment days earlier in the examination room. No, sweetheart, I don't, Emily said softly, her voice tight. Why not? Sophia persisted innocently. You'd be a really good mom. Emily's breath hitched. Tears welled in her eyes again. That's very sweet, Sophia. But maybe you could practice with me? Sophia continued, completely oblivious to the emotional minefield she was navigating. Since I don't have a mom anymore, and you don't have a kid. Sophia, David started, his voice full of warning. It's okay, David, Emily interrupted, her voice thick with emotion. She looked at Sophia, her heart aching with a mixture of pain and overwhelming love for this perceptive child. You know what, Sophia? I would love to practice being a mom. With you. Sophia beamed, a wide, radiant smile transforming her face. Really? Can we start now? Emily laughed softly, a tear escaping down her cheek. What did you have in mind? Braiding my hair, Sophia said instantly. Mommy used to do special braids. Really hard ones. Emily moved to sit gently on the edge of the bed, gathering Sophia's fine blonde hair in her hands. Her fingers worked with practiced ease, separating strands, creating an intricate French braid down Sophia's back. You've done this before, David observed from his chair, watching the tenderness in her touch. I practiced on my nieces, Emily murmured, concentrating on the braid. She secured it with a hair tie from her pocket. There you go, beautiful girl. Sophia touched the braid reverently, her eyes shining. Just like Mommy used to do. I'm glad you like it, Emily whispered, her heart full. Doctor, Emily. Sophia's voice turned serious again, pulling Emily back from the brink of tears. I think you and Daddy should go on a date. David choked on his coffee, sputtering. Soph, what? Sophia looked at them innocently. You're always looking at each other with googly eyes. And you laugh at his terrible jokes. David shot Emily a look, and she quickly looked away, trying to hide her smile. And he smiles more when you're here. Emily's cheeks flushed crimson. Your daddy and I are just friends, Sophia. But you could be more than friends, right, Daddy? Sophia looked expectantly at David. David met Emily's eyes over his daughter's head. A silent conversation passing between them, 20 years of pain, regret, and unspoken longing. He saw the vulnerability in her gaze, the question in her eyes. I think that's up to Dr. Emily, he said softly. Emily took a deep breath. This was crazy, risky, but looking at Sophia's hopeful face, at David's steady gaze, she felt a pull she couldn't resist. Well, she said carefully, a small, hesitant smile forming. Maybe we could start with dinner, proper dinner, not cafeteria food. Really? Sophia bounced slightly on the bed, then winced as her joints complained. Easy, sweetie, Emily and David said in unison, then looked at each other and smiled. And yes, really, Emily confirmed, looking back at Sophia. If your daddy agrees. I agree, David said quickly, perhaps too quickly. Sophia clapped her hands together, then remembered her joints and settled for a wide, triumphant grin. Finally, I've been waiting forever. Forever. David laughed, relief washing over him. It's only been, what, for weeks? That's forever in kid time, Sophia informed them solemnly. Later that night, after Sophia finally fell asleep and Emily returned to her rounds, David sat in the darkened hospital room, the only sound the steady beep of the monitors, thinking about second chances. He'd lost Emily once to fear and miscommunication. He'd lost Clara to cruel, random fate. Now, life was offering him something unexpected, something that felt both terrifying and incredibly right. A chance to heal old wounds while creating something entirely new. His phone buzzed with a text message. From Emily. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m.? There's a quiet Thai place near the hospital. He smiled, remembering their college days at Berkeley, when they'd lived on cheap Thai takeout during finals week, fueled by caffeine and hope. It's a date, he replied simply. In her quiet office, Emily stared at her phone, her heart racing like she was 20 again. She opened her desk drawer and touched the small wooden box containing Emma's tiny bracelet. Maybe it was time, she whispered to the memory of her lost daughter. Maybe it was time to try again. Maybe, just maybe, some wounds could actually heal. The mystery of the future felt less daunting now, laced with a fragile thread of hope. I found something. Emily burst into Sophia's room 3 days after their Thai dinner date, waving a medical journal, her eyes bright with excitement and focused intensity. Their date had been perfect, awkward at first, navigating 2 decades of history and heartache, then comfortable, easy, and finally, electric when David had kissed her goodnight outside her car. But now, the doctor was back, completely focused on her patient. David looked up from where he was helping Sophia with a complex puzzle. What is it? An experimental treatment protocol from the Mayo Clinic, she explained, pulling up data on her tablet. It's specifically designed for pediatric autoimmune disorders that haven't responded well to conventional therapy. Her finger traced lines on the screen. The success rate is remarkable. 85% of patients achieve full remission. Sophia hasn't been responding well to the current treatment, David noted, the fear returning slightly. Sophia's symptoms had plateaued. She wasn't getting worse, but the significant improvement they'd hoped for hadn't materialized. Exactly, Emily said, her voice filled with conviction. This could be our answer. It's an intensive protocol. Requires 4 weeks of daily 4 treatments combined with a very specific physical therapy regimen. Has it been approved? David asked, his mind already calculating risks and possibilities. For clinical use, yes. But it's new. Insurance might fight us on coverage. I don't care about the cost, David said immediately, cutting her off. If it could help her. There's something else? Emily hesitated, looking at him seriously. The protocol requires extremely precise administration. The doctor needs to be present for each session, monitoring and adjusting in real time. So you'd have to. David started, the implication sinking in. Be here every day, Emily finished, looking between him and Sophia. For 4 weeks straight. Does this mean Dr. Emily will be with us more? Sophia asked, her face lighting up again. If your daddy agrees to try this treatment, yes. Then I want to do it, Sophia declared, her voice firm. Right, Daddy? David met Emily's eyes. He saw the dedication there, the fierce determination that mirrored his own desperation to see his daughter well. Whatever it takes, he said, his voice quiet but firm. The next morning, Emily began the intensive protocol. The treatment sessions required 4 hours each day, during which Emily monitored Sophia's vital signs obsessively, adjusting the medication flow based on the slightest subtle changes. You're like a pianist, David observed on day 3, watching her fingers fly over the complex equipment controls, her focus absolute. More like a conductor, she replied, not taking her eyes off Sophia. The medicine is the orchestra. I just guide it. By the end of week 1, Sophia's joint pain had decreased noticeably. She could move more freely, and her energy levels, though still low, were improving. Look, Dr. Emily, I can touch my toes, Sophia demonstrated proudly, wiggling her fingers at her feet. Wonderful. But don't push too hard, remember? Emily smiled, a genuine warm smile that reached her eyes now. Week 2 brought even more improvement. Sophia's rash faded almost completely, and her fever finally broke, staying down consistently. Emily documented everything meticulously, often staying late into the night compiling data, reviewing charts, lost in her work, driven by a purpose David was beginning to understand. You're exhausting yourself? David said one evening, finding her asleep at her desk in her office, her head resting on a stack of research papers. She jolted awake, startled. I'm fine, David. Just reviewing the progress charts. Emily. He touched her shoulder gently. You're allowed to rest. You can't pour from an empty cup. I can't, she whispered, her voice thick with fatigue and something deeper. Not until she's better. Not until. She trailed off, her gaze distant, haunted. This isn't just about Sophia, is it? David said softly, understanding dawning in his eyes. This is about Emma. Emily's carefully built walls crumbled again. Tears streamed down her face, silent and heavy. Everything I do is about Emma, David. Every child I treat, every life I try to save. It's all because I couldn't save her. Our daughter. But you are saving Sophia, David insisted, his voice gentle but firm. Isn't that enough? Isn't saving the child right in front of you? Isn't that the most important thing? It'll never be enough. She stood abruptly, turning away from him, the raw pain in her voice tearing at his heart. I should check on my other patients. She fled, but the walls she kept desperately rebuilding between them crumbled a little more with each shared moment, each raw truth revealed. By week 4, the change in Sophia was remarkable. She could walk, run, and play without pain. Her appetite returned with a vengeance, and her blood work showed dramatic, undeniable improvement. Full remission, Emily announced after reviewing the latest test results, a joyous, tearful smile on her face. The treatment worked. Sophia cheered, a bright, triumphant sound that filled the room. Before either of them could think, David grabbed Emily in a tight hug, lifting her slightly off the ground. Thank you, he murmured into her hair, holding her close. Thank you for saving her, for giving her back to me. Emily pulled back, her professional mask sliding back into place, though her eyes were still shining with unshed tears. We're not done yet, David. She'll need follow-ups, monitoring. Emily. He cupped her face in his hands, making her meet his gaze. She's going to be okay. You did it. You saved her. The mystery of their past, the pain of their separation, the fear for Sophia's future, for this one shining moment. It all faded away, leaving only immense gratitude and a profound connection. The next morning, discharge day, the room buzzed with activity. Nurses removed IVs, orderlies packed belongings, and Sophia, full of newfound energy, bounced excitedly on the bed. "Sophia, calm down," David warned, smiling despite himself. "You're still recovering. I feel perfect." She jumped again, a joyful, pain-free leap, then suddenly stopped, swaying slightly. "Sophia." Emily rushed forward, her doctor instincts kicking in immediately, as the girl crumpled slightly, her hand clutching something tightly. "I'm okay," Sophia mumbled, then held up something clutched in her small fist. "I just needed to get this." She opened her hand to reveal a small, intricately carved wooden jewelry box. "Where did you get that, Soph?" David asked, bewildered. "I saved my allowance," Sophia grinned weakly, holding up the box. "Online shopping." "Open it," she instructed Emily, her eyes shining with a mischievous, determined light. Emily took the box with trembling fingers. Inside, nestled on a faded velvet cushion, lay two simple silver bands. Emily stared at them, then back at Sophia, completely speechless. "Daddy needs someone to love," Sophia announced to the small, stunned crowd of nurses who had gathered around the doorway, drawn by the commotion. "And Dr. Emily needs a family." She looked at Emily, her gaze clear and steady. "And I need a mom who understands my medical stuff, and who knows how to do really good braids." The entire pediatric ward seemed to hold its breath. David looked at Emily, saw the tears streaming silently down her face, the shock and hope swirling in her eyes, and made a split-second decision, the most important decision of his life. He dropped to one knee right there in the middle of the hospital room, ignoring the gasps and whispers around them. "She's right," he said simply, his voice husky with emotion, looking up at Emily. "I lost you once, Emily, 20 years ago. I am not losing you again." He reached for her hand, the one with the moon birthmark. "Sophia needs you. I need you. And—" He squeezed her hand gently, looking at her with all the love he'd carried for 2 decades. "I think maybe you need us too." Emily stared at him, then at Sophia, who was watching them with a hopeful, expectant grin, then back at the simple silver rings in the box. Around them, the nurses and hospital staff were whispering excitedly, some wiping away tears. "This is crazy," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Probably," David agreed, his smile wide and genuine. "We've only really been back in each other's lives for weeks? 5. We lost 20 years, David," Emily reminded him, the weight of their past heavy between them, even in this joyous moment. "And I don't want to waste another single day," he said firmly. "Michael, marry us, Dr. Emily," Sophia piped up, bouncing slightly on the bed despite her earlier wobble. "Please." Emily looked around the room, at the nurses who had become friends, who had supported her through countless difficult cases. At the hospital, the place where she had dedicated her life, trying to atone for a past she couldn't escape. At the little girl who had, in her simple wisdom, somehow orchestrated this improbable, perfect moment. And finally, at the man she had never, ever stopped loving. The man who was offering her not just a second chance, but a family, a home, a future she had never dared to dream of after losing Emma. "Yes," she said, dropping to her knees beside David and Sophia, tears now flowing freely down her face. But these were tears of joy, of relief, of overwhelming love and acceptance. "Yes, yes to all of it. Yes to you, David. Yes to you, Sophia. Yes to us. Yes to everything." The pediatric ward erupted in cheers, applause, and happy exclamations. Sophia threw her arms around both of them, squeezing tightly. And for the first time in 20 long, painful years, Emily felt something besides grief and guilt when she thought about families. She felt a surge of pure, unadulterated hope. 1 year later, Emily stood in front of the mirror in the hospital chapel's tiny bridal room, adjusting the simple lace of her white dress. Outside, she could hear Sophia's excited chatter as she practiced her flower girl duties for the 10th time that morning. Their wedding in the hospital chapel felt right. This place had brought them back together, had been the setting for their most painful truths and their most hopeful beginnings. "You okay?" Her friend and colleague, Dr. Anya Sharma, the head of cardiology, squeezed her shoulder, smiling warmly. "I'm getting married. In a hospital chapel." Emily laughed nervously, adjusting her veil. "Is that weird?" "It's perfect," Anya replied, her eyes kind. "This place is where your story found its way back to itself." A gentle knock interrupted them. Elizabeth, David's sister, peeked in. "Emily? Sophia wants to show you something." Sophia burst through the door in her beautiful pink flower girl dress, clutching her small basket of petals. "Look, I put some of the ribbon from your first hospital bracelet in with the flowers," she announced proudly, holding up a tiny pale blue ribbon nestled amongst the rose petals. "For good luck." Emily knelt to hug her, tears welling again. "Oh, sweetheart, that's beautiful." It was a ribbon from the identification bracelet Emma Grace had worn in the hospital. She'd kept it all these years. "And Daddy has something blue in his pocket that he won't show me," Sophia confided, whispering loudly. "Something blue." Emily's heart clenched with a sudden, certain feeling. She knew exactly what it was. The ceremony was small and intimate, just family, close friends, and several nurses who had watched their love story unfold within these walls. Sophia took her flower girl duties incredibly seriously, distributing petals down the aisle with scientific precision. When David reached into his pocket during the vows, he pulled out a small, faded blue ribbon. The same ribbon Emily had worn in her hair the day they first met in their Berkeley chemistry class, 23 years ago. "You kept it," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I kept everything, David replied, his voice thick with emotion. "Every photo, every letter you ever wrote me, every memory. Just like I kept hoping you'd come back." They exchanged rings, simple silver bands that perfectly matched the ones Sophia had bought online. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Sophia jumped up and down in the front row, shouting, "Finally!" The reception was held in the hospital cafeteria, magically transformed by the nursing staff with balloons, streamers, and fairy lights. The wedding cake was from the same bakery that had made Sophia's remission day cake months earlier. "To second chances," David toasted, raising his glass, his arm around Emily, his gaze encompassing their small, precious family. "To new beginnings," Emily added, smiling down at Sophia, who was already eyeing the cake. Life settled into a beautiful, chaotic rhythm. Emily moved into David's sprawling house, bringing her medical journals, her collection of slightly neglected houseplants, and a quiet joy that filled the rooms. Sophia delighted in having a mother figure who not only understood her medical needs but also braided her hair, read her stories about strong women scientists, and laughed loudly at David's terrible jokes. Emily balanced her demanding career as chief of pediatrics with motherhood, finding a new sense of purpose and fulfillment. 10 months after the wedding, Emily was reviewing patient files late one evening when a sudden wave of nausea hit her. She barely made it to the bathroom before she was sick. Shaking, she sat on the cool tile floor. "Not possible," she muttered to herself, her mind racing, but the positive pregnancy test in her purse told a different story. That evening, she sat David and Sophia down in the living room, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I have some news," she began nervously, looking from David's concerned face to Sophia's curious one. We're going to have a baby," Sophia shrieked with joy, jumping up and down on the sofa. David pulled Emily into his arms, hugging her fiercely, whispering, "Are you okay?" After Emma. Tears welled in Emily's eyes again. "I'm scared, David, terribly scared. But I'm ready. This time we'll do it together." "Can I name the baby?" Sophia asked eagerly, her eyes wide. "We'll see, Munchkin," David laughed, kissing the top of her head. If it's a girl, Sophia continued, looking seriously at Emily, can we name her Emma? After your first baby. Emily and David exchanged a stunned look. How did she know? They hadn't told her about Emma. How did you? Emily started, her voice full of surprise. I heard you talking once, Sophia explained simply, her gaze steady, when you thought you were alone. About Emma Grace. She took Emily's hand, her small fingers wrapping around her thumb. Is that okay? To name her Emma? So she's always with us. Tears streamed down Emily's face, but they were tears of pure, profound healing. More than okay, sweetheart, she whispered, squeezing Sophia's hand. It's perfect. The pregnancy was carefully monitored by Emily's colleagues, but everything progressed normally. 7 months in, the same point where Emily had lost Emma Grace all those years ago, she and David held their breath, the old fear a tangible presence. But their son arrived healthy and squalling, filling their home with new life and overwhelming joy. What should we name him? David asked, cradling the newborn bundle. James, Sophia announced instantly, like the brother in my favorite book. He'll be a great big brother to everyone. 18 months later, Emily discovered she was pregnant again, this time with twins. Sophia insisted on naming them, and when the ultrasound revealed a boy and a girl, she didn't hesitate. Emma, she declared softly, looking at Emily. And, Christopher. Why Christopher? Emily asked, curious. Because it means bearer of Christ, Sophia explained with the solemn wisdom that still sometimes startled them. And he'll help bear Emma's memory with us, so we never forget. Sometimes, amidst the beautiful chaos of their growing family, Emily wondered if Sophia was truly 8 or 80 years old. Their home, once quiet and somewhat empty, was now filled with laughter, noise, toys, medical textbooks, and the constant joyful energy of children. Emily balanced her demanding career as chief of pediatrics with the even more demanding role of motherhood, finding a deep, resonant peace she'd never thought possible. David worked from home when he could, helping with the whirlwind of kids. Sophia thrived as a big sister, her health remained stable and strong thanks to the experimental treatment, and she developed a keen interest in medicine, spending hours poring over her mother's old anatomy books. The day Emily won the prestigious American Academy of Pediatrics Innovation Award for her groundbreaking work on autoimmune disorders, she was 5 months pregnant with their 5th child. David sat beaming in the front row with all their children. James, now 7, trying hard to sit still. The twins, Emma and Christopher, 6, quietly drawing, and 4-year-old Lucy dozing peacefully against his shoulder. This award is dedicated to 2 Emmas, Emily said in her acceptance speech, her voice thick with emotion, looking out at her beautiful, messy family. One who taught me that loss, no matter how devastating, can fuel an unexpected purpose. And one who reminds me daily that love, in all its forms, can heal the deepest, most impossible wounds. After the ceremony, a photographer asked for a family photo. As they arranged themselves, David, Emily, Sophia, James, Emma, Christopher, Lucy, and the visible curve of baby number 5, Emily caught sight of their reflection in a nearby window. Family. Big, messy, loud, beautiful, and undeniably real. One more, the photographer called. In that moment, Emily's eyes met David's. 20 years of pain, loss, separation, and unanswered questions had led them here, to this perfect, chaotic moment. A love that had survived time, grief, and missed opportunities, finding its way back against all odds. Sophia noticed their shared look and grinned. The mastermind who had orchestrated it all with the simple, profound wisdom of a child who understood that sometimes broken hearts just need a little push to find their way back together. The camera flashed, capturing their collective joy, freezing that moment in time. Years later, 16-year-old Sophia Hartfield, now taller than Emily, stood confidently at the podium in her high school auditorium. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a neat, intricate braid, Emily's handiwork from that morning, and her blue eyes sparkled with intelligence and confidence as she prepared to read her award-winning essay. The day I found my mom, she began, her voice clear and strong, resonating through the auditorium. 8 years ago, I was a scared little girl in a hospital bed. My daddy was scared too, though he tried to hide it behind a brave face. And then she walked in, Dr. Emily Carter, the doctor who would become my mom in the most unexpected way possible. In the audience, Emily wiped a tear from her eye, her hand finding David's. Between them sat James, now 9, trying hard to sit still, and the twins, Emma and Christopher, 8, quietly absorbed in their coloring books. 6-year-old Leo dozed against David's shoulder, the newest addition to their bustling family. Number 6, right? David whispered to Emily, patting her arm. That's what you said after Lucy, Emily whispered back, smiling. Sophia continued reading, her voice unwavering. Some people might think it's strange that I orchestrated my dad's proposal to my stepmom when I was 8. But I don't call her my stepmom. She's just Mom. The mom who understood my illness better than anyone. Who taught me that families aren't always born. Sometimes they're chosen. And sometimes they're found in the most unlikely places, like a hospital room. Emily remembered that day 8 years ago. The shocking collapse, the discovery of the rings, David on one knee. Seemed like yesterday, and a lifetime ago all at once. My mom lost a baby before I was born, Sophia read, her voice softening with a deep understanding that belied her age. Her name was Emma, just like my sister. For years, Mom carried that sadness, that guilt, like a heavy weight. But our family showed her that love multiplies. It doesn't divide. We didn't replace Emma Grace. We honored her memory by building a family full of so much love, so much light, that the shadows of the past couldn't consume us. After the ceremony, the family gathered in their backyard for their traditional Sunday barbecue. The yard was beautiful chaos: soccer balls, art supplies, medical textbooks, and scattered toys everywhere. Emily had long given up on trying to maintain pristine organization. Mom, can you help me with my science project later? Sophia asked, helping set the table, her gaze thoughtful. It's about autoimmune disorders. Following in my footsteps? Emily smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. Maybe, Sophia shrugged. Or maybe I'll be a surgeon like Dr. Sharma's daughter. I haven't decided yet. The doorbell rang, and Dr. Anya Sharma herself appeared with her family, joining the happy gathering. Sorry we're late. Surgery ran long. Anya. The younger children swarmed her, knowing she always brought delicious treats. As the afternoon wore on, Emily found herself in her favorite spot, the porch swing David had installed when they bought the house. She watched their blended family and friends mingle, listened to the constant laughter and occasional squabbles, and felt a deep, profound contentment settle over her. Penny, for your thoughts? David joined her, bringing her a glass of iced tea, sitting beside her on the swing. Just thinking about that scared med student who ran away 23 years ago, Emily said, leaning her head on his shoulder as he put his arm around her. If someone had told her she'd end up here, with 6 kids, a hospital innovation award, and a husband who still can't dance. David laughed, the sound warm and familiar. You wouldn't have believed them. Sophia appeared with an old photo album, dust swirling around it. Mom, Dad, look what I found. It was David's college album, full of faded pictures from their days at Berkeley. There they were, young, in love, oblivious to the heartbreak, the loss, the long separation, and the incredible journey that lay ahead. You both look so young, Sophia marveled, tracing their faces in the photos. We were, David said softly, looking at the pictures, then at Emily, his eyes filled with love. Not much older than you are now. Do you ever wish things had been different? Sophia asked, her voice quiet, serious. That you hadn't lost all those years? Emily and David exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them, acknowledging the pain of the past while embracing the fullness of the present. It was a question they had wrestled with many times. If things had been different, Emily said carefully, choosing her words, Daddy might not have met your birth mom, Sophia. And you wouldn't exist. James, Emma, Christopher, Lucy, and Leo, they wouldn't exist either. Sometimes, David added, his voice gentle, the hardest paths lead to the most beautiful destinations. Like in your essay, Emily said, smiling. Sometimes families are chosen. And sometimes, Sophia grinned, looking wise beyond her 16 years, 8-year-olds are matchmakers with an online shopping habit. Mommy! Leo ran up, clutching a toy. Emma won't share the swings. I'll handle it, Sophia offered, standing up and taking her little brother's hand. Come on, Leo, let's solve this like Dr. Emily would, with negotiation and a treatment plan. Emily laughed as Sophia led Leo away, already sounding like a miniature pediatrician in the making. She's going to be an amazing doctor, David observed, pulling Emily closer. She's already an amazing person, Emily replied, her heart overflowing. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the yard, Emily gathered everyone for their weekly tradition, the gratitude circle. Even the teenagers participated, though James pretended to be too cool for it. I'm grateful for our family, little Emma said, just as she did every week, her voice sweet and clear. I'm grateful Mom's having another baby, Christopher added, beaming. I'm grateful for second chances, David said, squeezing Emily's hand, his gaze holding hers. When it was Emily's turn, she looked around at their chaotic, beautiful, improbable family, her husband, her children, her chosen sisters and their families, all gathered in the place they called home. I'm grateful for full circles, she said, her voice filled with emotion. For love that finds its way back home, no matter how long it takes. For a little girl's wisdom that saw what adults couldn't. For a family that is messy, loud, and utterly perfect in its imperfection. Later that night, after all the children were finally in bed and the house was quiet, Emily and David sat on their bed, looking at ultrasound photos of baby number 6. A boy, David noted, smiling. The kids want to name him after Grandpa William. William Chun Hartfield. Emily tested out the name, a soft smile on her face. I like it. David reached into his nightstand drawer and pulled out something small and wooden, the familiar box. He opened it to reveal 2 items nestled side by side. The faded blue ribbon from the day they met, an impossibly tiny hospital bracelet labeled Baby Chun. You kept Emma's bracelet? Emily whispered, reaching for it, tracing the little plastic band with her finger. You gave it to me, David said softly, his voice full of remembrance. On our first anniversary, after we got married, you said you wanted me to have a piece of her too, to remember her, and how far we've come. Emily held the tiny bracelet, tears blurring her vision. Sometimes I still can't believe this is our life, David. All of this, after everything. Sophia was right, you know, David said, putting his arm around her, pulling her close. 8 years ago, that little matchmaker with a shopping app. She knew what we all needed. She saw the truth in our eyes when we couldn't see it ourselves. They laughed quietly together, the sound comfortable and familiar, not wanting to wake the sleeping children in the rooms around them. Outside their window, the moon cast a crescent shadow, not unlike the matching birthmarks that had first connected them 23 years ago. But now, those marks were just one small thread in the rich, complex tapestry they had woven together. 6 children, countless memories, a lifetime of shared laughter and tears, and a love that had survived separation, loss, and time itself, finding its way back home, stronger and deeper than ever before. As Emily drifted off to sleep, her hand resting on her growing belly and David's arm around her, she thought about Sophia's essay conclusion. Sometimes the best families are the ones we choose to create. And sometimes, she added silently, smiling into the darkness, they're the ones that choose us right back. What did you think of this incredible story of love, loss, and second chances? Let me know in the comments below. If you were moved by this story, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on more amazing tales like this one. Thanks for watching.